start this video about 87 times. I feel like this has been so built up. I'm moving, finally, after 2 years of traveling and being a digital nomad. So if you're new here, my name's Taylor. For about 7 or 8 years, I was living in Seattle, and a couple years ago, I decided to sell everything, and I was planning on doing kind of like a cross-country move, testing out either New York or Chicago for a couple months, seeing what I thought, and then moving to probably one of those two places. That took me on a whole other journey. 2 years later, here I am. I've been living out of suitcases and traveling and working remote for the last 2 years. So really, like a month ago in December, I didn't know how soon I was gonna be moving. I was still deciding between two places, and I do have some upcoming trips, so I was kind of like, should I just wait until spring to actually move somewhere? Do I wanna do this now? Do I wanna be basically going another half of the year doing what I'm doing now, or do I want to just move now? Clearly I went with answer B. I'm exhausted of doing this. It's been amazing. I talked all about my thoughts on it and everything in this video right here, so I'll have that linked in the eye and down below. But it has been, it's been an amazing last 2 years in a lot of ways. However, I'm definitely done. Love traveling, definitely will still be continuing to travel, but I'm just ready to have a home base. I'm ready to like put roots down somewhere. If you've been following the nomad vlogs over the last 2 years, which I have a playlist of, there's been a lot of cities that I could potentially see myself living. And I think one thing I've learned throughout this whole last couple years is just that there's pros and cons of everywhere, and also to not listen to what people say about cities. Some places get like a bad rep, and when you're actually there, you might really like it. So I'm gonna share kind of like my top places that I was debating between and then reveal where I'm moving. So I would say in the last few months, I definitely was just starting to get a little bit like, not even the last few months. I mean, I think I talked about this in the Shadow and Schmooze like a year ago or in the summer, that I just was really overthinking everything because I felt like wherever I moved to, that's it. I'm never gonna move again. Just really overthinking things, which I usually don't do. I usually just like pick up, move. It's not a thing. Like Seattle, I went on a weekend trip, decided I was moving there. Like a couple days later, found a job, moved up. I'm usually pretty opposite of that, like very spontaneous and just like do it with pretty much everything else. This time around, I think I've just been putting so much pressure on myself because I feel like I'm a certain age, single, and there are things that I'm hoping for in the next few years to happen. So I really just was like overthinking that. And what I've landed on after, you know, talking about it in YouTube videos, getting your guys' advice, talking to family and friends, and just like really thinking about all this, especially in the last few months, is that I'm just gonna follow my gut, just go with where I feel good. If, you know, in a year or 2 years, I decide it's not for me after all, or I wanna move again, or 3 years, however long, I'll do that and I'll figure it out then. It doesn't have to be this like permanent thing. So as far as living in the US versus abroad, I will first reveal this. I am living in the US for now. We'll see in like a year or two where I'm at. I would love to eventually live outside of the US and raise kids not in the US, but that's hopefully, you know, down the line. One of the things I kept kind of coming back to is that whenever I move abroad, you have to be in a certain mindset. Like I've lived in other countries for extended periods of time, and I love it. There's a lot of adjustment though. You're learning a new language, typically, new culture. And I love that, like that stuff excites me, but you have to be in a certain mindset and like ready for it. And I just don't feel like I'm in that kind of mindset right now. So when I started this a couple years ago, I really was only considering moving to New York or Chicago. And there's been so many points throughout these last couple years where I went somewhere and I was like, in my mind, I don't know if I ever vocalized it, probably did, but I was thinking like, okay, this is it. It's New York. This is it. It's Chicago. I think I could be happy in like a lot of different places and very different kinds of lifestyles. I talked about this in a past Shadow and Schmooze, but I feel like I just kind of like mold to whatever environment I'm in, and like super different ones, to the point where then it's kind of hard to figure out, well, what's the right path here? Because if I could be happy in like so many different places, where do I choose? So with that being said, I'm going to share a few of my top places that I didn't pick. Here's one that I really enjoyed and that I think a lot of people would like living in, but personally for me, after like thinking about it more after being there for a couple months, it was a no, and also not one that I see myself ever moving to. Austin, Texas. Love Austin. Austin has amazing food, good like social scene. A lot of people are moving there and have moved there in the last few years. For me, I just don't think I'll be living in Texas ever, but I'll just keep it at that. So Chicago is a place that I loved and that I could still see myself living in. To me, it felt very walkable. I felt safe. The trains were clean. People were friendly. Tons of fun, like restaurants and things going on. You still have theater like New York, but it's just a different feel than New York. And one of the big things for me with Chicago is that there's beautiful parks and Lake Michigan. When I was there, I think it was in May, and it was just like unbelievable weather. Lake Michigan is like a bright blue. The thing with Chicago for me is that the dating, bad folks. So we'll see. Like I said, could totally see myself living there. I know everyone likes to say how insane the winters are. I believe you. But what I've heard from people is that people still go out and like do things in the winter. It's just kind of up to you. Like, do you want to brave it kind of thing? Atlanta is definitely another one like Chicago where I could for sure see myself living at some point. I loved Atlanta. Totally different than my expectations. Totally different. Atlanta is cool, especially since they built the Beltline, which connects all the neighborhoods. Atlanta is very active, friendly, good food. Atlanta I like because you can get very different vibes in the different neighborhoods. A little bit like Seattle, but I would say it's even more drastic. Like, I'm forgetting the name of this one area. I think it's just maybe downtown Atlanta, but you can be decked out in heels and dressed up and like go out and go to a nice restaurant, or you can go to like a very hipstery kind of neighborhood and be wearing sweats and be chilling. Still, I think a very underrated city that will probably continue to grow a lot. So New York City was on my initial list. I stayed for a few months in New York City between like at different points. I love being back there. I have a lot of friends there. There's obviously an insane amount of stuff going on at all times. I've been trying to like summarize how I feel about New York for forever. Basically, I just don't think that's what I'm looking for at this point.
Big cities for me, fun to visit. I think I just like nature too much, and it's not what fills my cup.
I love being back there. It's fun. It has so much going on, but it's a no. Okay, so the place that's in the top 2 for me that I'm still like, I was really, even a couple weeks ago, going back and forth on, and that I definitely can see myself living in at some point, is Colorado. Denver really surprised me. I feel like you don't hear great things about Denver. Colorado, you hear amazing things about if you like outdoorsy stuff, but Denver itself, you just don't hear that many great things about. Denver, I stayed in for, I think it was about 3.5 weeks. I did the trusted house sitters there. And Denver has a lot of the things I was looking for. It's a good sized city. There's still a lot going on. There's a lot of restaurants. There's good shopping. Not that that's like a requirement, but just an added bonus. It's very close to all the outdoorsy things. Tons of hiking. You have snow, you have seasons. That's a huge one for me. But it's still sunny. It's sunny, I think, like 300 days of the year in Denver, which is amazing. Having lived in Seattle for so long, like that is amazing.
There's also a huge, Denver International Airport, which is great for traveling other places, except traffic.
And I don't have a good reason for why I didn't choose Denver, besides that I just am going with my gut. But I can definitely see myself living in Denver. So like, 10 minutes into the video, here's where I'm moving. I am moving to Oregon, baby. Pacific Northwest. It's in my blood. I went to school at the University of Oregon. I have always loved Oregon. And I've always thought that I would move back here at some point, like when I'm older. I've always felt good in Oregon. It's freaking beautiful. I feel like it's one of the most underrated states. And I love Washington. I think Washington's beautiful. There's just something about the Pacific Northwest to me. The nature in the Pacific Northwest just really does it for me. I feel good when I'm back here, and I was always trying to figure out like anytime I came back to Oregon, I was like, is this just because I went to college here, so I associate it with those like happy feelings in college and having fun, like all of that, or is it the state? But I think it's a little bit of both. And I just kind of had this like aha moment where I'm like, why is this something that I was saying I was gonna eventually do or do when I'm older, if I just really enjoy it now? I'm not sharing where I am. I'd rather just say Oregon, so I appreciate those of you who will respect that. Just for privacy, one of the things, like, I think one of the reasons, honestly, I was pushing off making this video, I realized one of the things that has been really nice with doing the nomad thing is the internet knows where I am, but only for a certain amount of time, or not even while I'm there, and then I peace out and go somewhere else. And so it's just nice to have that privacy, and I've had that privacy for a couple years, and so to go from that to now not is like a little bit weird again for me. But yeah, I'm just really excited to be back in the Pacific Northwest. I know it's wild that after going everywhere all over the world, I'm in Oregon, but I love it. I'm excited to be here. Like I said, everything can change, who knows, but right now I am feeling good about it. More big news. I actually already found where I'm living and I've signed the lease. I have the keys to my new place, and I want to give you kind of like a rundown. There's just a lot of stuff when you move states, and also finding an apartment, going car shopping, moving my business over here, getting everything else set up, just as far as like the daily stuff, doctors, pharmacy, just like all of that. So there's a lot happening, which you guys will see an empty apartment tour. Don't you worry. There's gonna be so many moving vlogs. I'm like really breaking them down this time. If you want to see any of my past moving vlogs, that will be down below. Actually, on that note, I will say I was debating if I was gonna find like a fully furnished place, sign a year lease on a fully furnished, since when I left 2 years ago, I did sell all of my furniture. I sold my car. I sold everything besides like 10 or 15 boxes in Seattle, and that's mostly just like random stuff. But I decided against the fully furnished option because I just want it to feel like finally this is my apartment. I don't want to feel like I'm living in like an Airbnb for a year. And also I just kind of got to the point where I'm like, okay, if I do decide to move again in a year or 2 years, whatever, I don't mind the whole like packing and moving process, but I just won't sell the stuff. I'm just gonna be keeping what I'm using and like putting it in a moving truck if I do that. That's why I decided against the fully furnished option. But if you are looking for a fully furnished option, go on Furnished Finder. It's basically a site that a lot of like travel nurses and stuff use. I'm not gonna get in the weeds about it, but there was like a whole thing where like basically I couldn't get a car until I had a permanent address, like a lease to prove. I didn't realize that because I haven't had a permanent address for the last 2 years. You like literally can't buy a car. It might just be an Oregon thing because we don't have sales tax here. So in order to get a car, I had to find the apartment first. Now I'm starting to look at cars because what a lot of people do with cars and stuff here is because we don't have sales tax, people used to try to come to Oregon, buy a car here, pay no sales tax, and then like drive it home. But that doesn't work. If you're thinking about doing that, it doesn't work because you pay tax at the time of title and registration, which is in your home state with your home address. So there's really like, there's sneaky ways to get around it. Like if you know someone here, there's ways to get around it, the sales tax, but anyways, not applicable because I will be a resident. But I do need to get my license and go to the DMV. I almost did it the other day, and thank God I didn't because I was totally spacing out on the fact that you have to take a photo when you get your new license. And I was wearing like no makeup, think I had a beanie on, it would have been tragic. All of the stuff I own is either in Seattle or in San Diego at my parents' house. In Seattle, I have, like I said, I think like 15 boxes because I donated a bunch of boxes of makeup. So I'm going to Seattle the first week of February, and my friend is helping me. We're gonna go through, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna open up all the boxes and like donate a bunch of stuff because I just don't think I'm gonna still need all the things that I thought I was gonna want. And then I looked into state to state move. I still don't think it makes enough sense based on the small amount of things I have. So I'm gonna be shipping my boxes. Then I go from Seattle to Houston, which I already had planned because I have to go to my doctor, but that's been booked for months. So it was just the way the timing worked out, but it's kind of good because now I can just do one ways instead of like round trips. So then I go from Houston to San Diego, and that's where I'm gonna pack up all my San Diego stuff, go through everything again. My mom's gonna fly with me back from San Diego to Oregon to help me move in and stuff. I appreciate the help. We'll probably still have to ship a few boxes, but not that much because I don't have that much stuff in San Diego. It's mostly like suitcases, and if there's two of us, we can both bring 2 bags each checked on the airline. So that was kind of the thought there. So then everything will be back here by like the end of February. I can start unpacking and getting settled. That's the plan. We have a busy, really couple months ahead of me. I want to thank you guys for being flexible with like the content that I've put out over the last couple years and just how everything's changed and following along on all of the travels. I appreciate you guys so much, and I'm excited to share the moving process with you. Cheers to being back in the Pacific Northwest. I love you guys. Thanks for watching. See you in my next video.